say you need a miracle, and your heart is open wide. When all the problems spiritual.
Hi, welcome to our show, The Game Changer. We are a show of inspiration, critical thinking, and awareness. My name is Michelle Harris, and my co-host, CURT Pickering.
I'm the basketball coach. She's the life coach.
We have a special guest today with us, Natalie Harte. Natalie has written a book. She's here today to promote her book and share a story. Her book is called The Lost Girl. It's a beautiful woman's journey from a surviving life to now thriving in her life. Natalie has been through many obstacles and overcome many trials in her life. Natalie was a child of divorce, which left her with a broken heart. As she grew, she struggled with her own identity, and Natalie has overcome so many things, as I mentioned. Her book is full of many trials and obstacles that she has shown to be an overcomer. In her book, one of the things that she mentions is, what was it like for you being a child of divorce? Welcome, Natalie Harte, to our show.
Hi,
Natalie.
It's good to be here.
So glad you're
Thank
here.
you for having me.
So that's the first question I have. What was it like coming from being a child of divorce?
Well, you know, I had abandonment issues, and I think a lot of people do, and they may not even realize it. Sometimes there's I had a step-parent in my life, and he loved me, and he adored me. My stepfather was really wonderful. But, when I became a teenager, and then the other girls, their fathers were there to really build them up, and I think that girls, their fathers want to tell them how pretty they are and how special they are. And, the father shows them how they should be treated. And he's very protective of his daughter. And what he's doing is building up the self-esteem and making you feel that you're very worthy. And, sometimes a step-parent, there's a boundary there. And they just can't, sometimes they want to say things that they're afraid to, unfortunately. There's always going to be a boundary there. So, I really didn't realize it. It really didn't even impact me until I was a teenager. I'm sure, as a child, as a young girl, I missed my father. But it wasn't really damaging until in the teenage years, basically, that I started to think too much about it. Because I saw all the other girls and their daddies just adored them and built them up. So I honestly did not realize I had abandonment issues until, of course, like a lot of women do, is I went after men that were father figures. So I dated men that were much older than me. And I chose men actually that reminded me of my father, which was probably not the best.
So you were looking to fill the void that you had as a child of not having a father.
Yes, yes. And since my father, even after I got to know him, he's a little bit, his personality is not so warm and friendly. He can be cold and distant, and I chose men, and he has certain, behaviors. I just chose men that reminded me of my father. But they weren't the best choices, at all. So it carries on.
So you found yourself in these different relationships, and it just perpetuated
the
same type.
Yes, I kept dating older men. I had my first two husbands were older, but the first one, that was just a crazy lifestyle. I mean, reckless, and I moved out with my father in California, and his lifestyle was reckless. So the two of them, they just thought, oh, this is like my dad. And then the next relationship, I actually picked a man that had a lot of things. He was older, but he had some things that were opposite my father. Just the constant comparison of, I want to be someone exactly the opposite or somebody just like my father. And so, I've been married 3 times.
Who's counting?
I've been married 3 times. Well, it's a problem. But my third husband is the closest to my age. And when I married him, I consciously said, I'm going to be with someone that I felt uncomfortable with. Because I knew I had to go out of my comfort comfort level. So I knew that I kept picking the wrong relationships and the wrong men. So I said, I'm going to pick someone that is totally different in every single way. And this man was very respectful.
So what have you learned from all these relationships in your life? I mean, where are you at now that what's most meaningful and of value?
So where are you now with relationships? I mean, I think I understand, clarify if I've got this wrong, that you're not in one right now, but if you were to be in one, what's your perspective now, what you're looking for? Sure.
Well, all this time in my life, you know, what was this all about and where am I headed? And what's my legacy going to be? But I prefer to settle down with someone that has the same faith as I do at this time, so that we can grow and age gracefully, but be confident in where we're going.
Wow.
Because I've had the near-death experiences, so I think I honestly believe that this life is very short compared to the next one, until the afterlife. So I think this is just all preparation almost. So I want to pick the partner where we both prepare each other for our exit strategy.
Sure. It's so inspiring that what you're saying is that now you have these values you're choosing to live by. Now you want to align with that same with your partner.
Yes,
it's a great place to
absolutely.
be. Part of your
Absolutely.
Part of your thriving, it sounds like.
Yes, so we can build each other up.
I have a crazy idea, and I've looked at a couple chapters in the book. Could you just give me like a sentence? I'm going to read the chapter title.
Okay.
Just give us just one sentence. So there's
Well, I don't have my glasses on, Kurt, so don't.
So first one is Hell is for Real. That's chapter 1. What is that about? One sentence. Describe that.
Well, I was there. I should know.
Okay. All right. Chapter 2, Early Years.
Setting the stage, more or less, so that you know what kind of background I came from.
Okay.
So you can understand.
Chapter 3, we've talked about broken childhood. Chapter 4, College Dropout.
Yeah, I chose I had no guidance as far as going to college. You know, my mother never went, and again, the absent parent. And yeah, so I got into all these colleges. I could have, see, that was the time in my life when you can take someone and really mold them. I had no guidance whatsoever. And I chose the wrong college, and I didn't drink beer, and that was a big deal, Kurt.
Okay. Okay, here's
Lots of
chapter
yeast.
5, a play on words. Californication.
Ooh. See, well, you know, I came out here, and I I hate to pound this over you, but I was raised in this very strict Christian. Both my mother and my stepfather were Sunday school teachers, and I went to the Christian school from kindergarten to 12th grade, and we didn't even have alcohol in the house, certainly not drugs. And I came out to the lifestyle. My father was a wild man, so to speak, and I moved into his home, and I tell you, it was a free-for-all.
California gone wild. Huh?
California, you know, and back east they call it the land of fruits and nuts, and they said Natalie's gone to the land of fruits and nuts.
Yeah.
But you know, free-for-all, you know. Yeah, anything goes.
Yeah.
No accountability, you know, no discipline, just, you know.
Just do it.
Get in trouble.
Nike, just do it.
Just
Chapter 6, Hell's Angels. I did not read that chapter.
Oh boy. So,
Can you squeeze that into one sentence?
yeah, the biker gang, the Hells
the biker
Angels,
gang,
the actual biker gang. I got to know, indirectly some of
well,
those people.
We're just kind of whetting the appetite
Yeah,
for the
they're
viewers.
very dangerous types.
If they want to find out more, they're going to have to buy a book.
Yeah.
They're very dangerous types.
Chapter
for sure.
7, painfully beaten while pregnant.
Yeah,
That happened.
Okay, yes. Now that was so traumatic that I blocked it out until I knew it happened, but when I was writing the book, it all came back to me. But I was 8 months pregnant, and my husband at the time beat me.
Yeah.
Death of my mother.
My mother died when I was 23,
Okay.
and she was only 44. And so
Wow.
I had no sisters, no aunts, no support group at all.
Chapter 9, moving on.
Moving on.
Well, let's just,
Kurt,
if you're not sure,
I
let's
don't have
move
my
on.
glasses. Move
Let's
on.
move
Yeah,
on.
that's
Let's
what
move
that
on to
chapter's
chapter 10. Chapter 10, Malibu.
That's what that one is about. So, Malibu, oh, good gosh. So Malibu, when I moved there, I just wanted to be an actress, and I had this beautiful home on the hill, and it was just full of all these artsy type of people, and I just loved it, but I got in also a lot of trouble there,
A lot of
Kurt.
trouble.
A lot of trouble there in
You
Malibu.
get in trouble in Malibu?
Yeah.
Okay. Which takes us to chapter 11, Hollywood. I'm told you can get into some trouble there, too.
You know what they say, from creation comes destruction, or destruction, creation, or whatever. They practice that in Malibu a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chapter 12, close to home here, Jerry and Montecito.
Yes. So I moved up in Montecito.
Was this in the 80s, 90s?
This was after Malibu. So after Malibu, and I lost a home there, and it went through just another horrific experience there, a financial one, and all kinds of stuff. But I moved up here, and I wanted to be a real estate agent, start all over.
Right.
But again, I must have been a magnet for partying, party girl magnet, because if you're in the right frame of mind, I suppose you can find a party anywhere at any time. So it's all about, who you are and what you want to allow in your life, right?
Yeah.
There was something I read in that chapter about something about the beach or pool agent.
Oh yes, poolside agent. Yeah. I really didn't do well at sales, real estate sales. It was not really my thing. I'm not a good salesperson, really. So they'd say, "Where's Natalie? Where's Natalie?" And I used to say, "I'm the poolside agent. I have to get out there, lay out in the sun, because I was always too tan."
That's kind of like me. I attended Poolside Presbyterian for quite a few years, so I can relate. Chapter 13, Candace.
Oh, Candace is my sweetheart. I have 2 daughters.
All right.
Candace is my younger one, and she was born up here in Santa Barbara.
All right. The dentist.
The dentist. The dentist, actually, that story goes to show how God, which I walk with God. That's my relationship every day. My walk with God can use different people in your life to make things happen, and you might consider it a very bad thing at the time. Something happens to you, but actually, in the big scheme of things, it was put there for a reason. So that dentist was somebody that was put there for a reason in my life.
Okay. Death comes for me.
Yes, it did. Can I go 2 more sentences? So yeah. So,
Yes, you may.
So yes, no, and that's when I was in the hospital, and I had a trach, and that's when I spent the 3 days in intensive care, which I went on this horrific journey that I didn't want to talk about for 20 years, this near-death experience, and what I believed to be was a place called hell. And that's what that's about. The son of a gun came for me.
Okay.
That guy, that Grim Reaper.
All right. Day trader and miscarriage.
So I started trading stock. My whole family, my grandfather, was a money manager in New York families. And I started trading stock, and I got so good out of it, I thought I was just, super brain, and I got obsessed, and it became an addiction in and of itself. And then the market crashed, and it took me down with it, and it needed to happen. Again, you know, it looks like a bad thing on the surface, and it was hurtful and painful, but some of these things needed to happen. They were molding me, you know, to become the person I am today.
And you had a miscarriage during that time?
Oh, good gracious. And I had a miscarriage. And that is another strange story because I speak about, I believe there's a place for reincarnation. Now, I certainly don't know everything about life after death, but that is a very interesting story because I felt the person, I felt the soul, and that's a real good one.
The crash.
Oh yeah, that's the crash of the stock market.
Oh, okay.
And when the market crashed, my body, I literally physically got ill. And physically, because when you're so obsessed with something, and it is, you live and breathe and sleep. I used to dream about trades. When you're so obsessed, and you can be a person, it can be anything, and that is taken away from you, not only, you can get physically ill. I mean, emotionally ill, yes, but physically too. Your health can just...
Manhattan Beach.
No, I like Manhattan Beach. So that's when I married John, the last husband. That was very sweet. And I was looking forward to a dream. You know, I wanted that dream that I wanted my whole life. You know, the husband, the house, just the happy ever after.
Yeah.
And I thought that was it. And that was not it.
Okay. Dazed and confused.
That's when I realized that that was just not my final relationship, and I wasn't going to have roots there that I wanted. And that really, really, you know, I'm now like in my 40s there. I mean, how many times can my brother used to say, how many times can you pull a rabbit out of a hat?
A cat has 9
You know,
lives.
I mean, I was...
Plastic surgery nightmare.
Well, so that is, you know, that plastic surgery, you know, I was an actress, and I remember when breast implants came out and everybody wanted them, and anyway, I had them. But I had terrible problems with this surgery in the book there that I speak about, and I had a terrible infection, and it almost disfigured me, and it did disfigure me, but I'm been healed. But I tell you, I put so much emphasis on looking a certain way and pleasing a certain person. And when I had actual natural beauty, I didn't have to do that. So I think that this plastic surgery stuff, I almost died from trying to modify my body type. And it really is an obsession in this country. And if you're the right person, you have the right people around you, they'll love you no matter what.
Was that part of when you talk about your book, struggling with your identity?
Oh, that was awful because I was disfigured, and the relationship I was in at the time fell apart, and I struggled in every way, emotionally, physically, financially, and I was all alone, absolutely alone. And so I made light of it, and I called myself what? Shark Bite.
Oh. We've got a lot out here in the...
Because I had to make light of it to keep from like wanting to kill myself, jump off a bridge or something.
Wow.
You know, I said, oh my goodness. I just decided to name the disfigurement, you know, that area. I said Shark Bite. Called myself Shark Bite for about 2 years until I had it, you know, fixed. But you know, I see a lot of these people with plastic surgery, and honestly, I mean, sometimes there is an honestly ugly part someone, you know, wants to make better. But overall, it is about self-esteem, and it's the society that we live in is so obsessed with superficial things instead of what's on the inside. And that's more important. And actually, I think beauty comes from within. Yes, there's a certain amount of beauty that's physical, and that will fade.
It's fading. Yeah.
But if you are beautiful inside, you will always be beautiful. You'll be 80 and somebody will say, what a beautiful 80-year-old. But not if you've done all this stuff and I can't even recognize you as a human being. I'd be like, it's hard to tell these days what, you know, a lot of people to me look like strange.
What's different about you now that has you have this view of that that perspective of changing your body, you know?
Changing who I am. Well, I try to be, I try to, Jesus was my example, how to live a life. I'm a lover of Jesus, lover. So I try to be like him and walk in grace, and I feel peaceful and I feel happy, and every day is just a joy. So if someone came into my life or into my world and they had all this kind of putting this stuff on me that I thought was unhealthy, I would probably, not spend any time, give them a time of day. Because, there are people out there that are good people. And we're all learning that what's important really, with all these losses of properties and people lost money in the market, what's really important are relationships and what's inside and people. And so if someone came into my life now that I felt was so superficial or wanted me to change or do this or do that to my body, or, I just have to walk away. Not in a bad way, but a lot of times in the book I talk about self-preservation. You have to do things as an act of self-preservation.
Yeah.
You have to pick and choose your friends wisely.
So would you say that's through all of these things that you've been through, what you had alluded to earlier in conversation, that it was for your good? This was all meant to happen for you, so to find your peace and contentment today?
Yes. Yes. Michelle, that is so true. If I hadn't gone through those things, I would probably still be lost. And what doesn't kill me made me stronger. And I used to think that was the worst thing in the world. But once you go through some really tough hardships, and like I said, you either sink or swim, or you either self-destruct. Once you look back, 3 and 5 years later, you're like, it's kind of refined me. I was kind of a diamond in the rough. Now I'm a little shinier.
It sounds like with all your experiences, you've experienced so many things that money could buy, and that you've been around the world, different places, and you've lived in these most fabulous places and experienced so many things, but you've also experienced so much loss. And your book talks about what's changed you is your spiritual awakening. You talk about your faith in God. And so would you say you have more contentment now with your faith than all of these things that...
Oh, yes. Money can't buy happiness. And neither can sex buy, when you're having sex with someone, that doesn't mean they love you. You have to be, everything has to come from a godly place. I try to live a godly life. So, I can, I still struggle with, certain things, but I'm very happy. Some people are terribly miserable and they have all the things I don't have. And in a lot of ways, I have nothing, but I have everything. I'm very, very happy, well-adjusted person. It's hard to believe it when you read the book. But I healed. This is the healer. I was able to heal myself.
So when you look back, I've read several chapters in the book, and you talk about, low self-esteem early on. Where are you at today with that, and how have you used all these experiences to shape who you are now?
Well, in my walk with God on a daily basis, I feel like a beautiful child of His, and that's all I need really, because I would love to partner, but since I don't have one, you can have nothing, but you're a child of God and you have His love, and that's really so valuable, the most valuable thing in the world. So I have that.
So would you say everything that you were chasing after your whole life, it sounds like you're saying you found your purpose and you have found your passion and you fulfilled that hole that you were, with all of these different things that you've experienced?
Somehow it is meant to be. It is meant to be. I believe I'm meant to tell my story.
Yeah.
And be an inspiration to other people that have gone through rough times, and show people how. I've told a few of these stories to people, and they say, "I can't believe you can talk. You're even halfway sane today." But there's a tremendous healing out there for those that reach.
So, I was just going to say one last thing about seeking all these things: money, fame, men, all the things you talked about, and all the loss that you've overcome. Well, I just lost my train of thought. All the things. Kurt, you're going to have to make that.
Well, I wanted to ask.
Smile.
I wanted to ask, what do you want to do with this book?
Oh, yes.
I mean, you've written
Yeah.
this book. Obviously,
Yes.
you bear your soul
Yeah.
in it. Is this something you want to, you just want to share your life story with other people? And
Yes.
How do you want to do that?
You know, I honestly, 2 words that I want people to know is that they're accountability and forgiveness. Even though they don't sound like they go together, you are accountable for your actions. And on top of that, you also though have to learn to forgive others. And you can't pick and choose who's going to take accountability or who's going to forgive you. But if those 2 things are in your life, that's a pretty good start.
Right. I know my train of thought just came back to me. Everything that you were seeking after, but your book talks about what really basically was missing was your spirituality and your
Yes.
personal relationship
Yes.
with God.
Yes. Yes.
So that's great for the audience to know, right? Because there might be, well, there's several people out there that have a lot of things, or they're looking for a lot of things.
Yeah.
But that missing piece for you was you didn't have your spirituality growth, you didn't have your relationship with God, and now you do, and you found more peace and contentment as I've read this book and what I've gathered from it, which is inspiring to know someone that walked some really challenging, hard things, but also got to see so much. But
I
really,
think people are humbled for a reason. They're, I hate to say it, with all these bad things, and bad things happen to good people, and bad things happen to bad people.
Right.
But it's what you make of those bad things. It can actually,
I have one last question. You say God has forgiven you. Have you forgiven yourself for? Because we've
Yes.
all made mistakes.
Sure.
Some people carry those mistakes and they don't forgive themselves.
right.
Yes. Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you and to get to spend the last 2 days with you and coming on our show and being a guest. It's been a wealth of information and inspiring just to meet you.
Thank you
And to
very
hear your
much.
story.
Thank you.
Thank you for
telling
being
the
here,
story.
Natalie.
Thank you for being here.
They can,
You can find The Lost Girl on Amazon.com. Also, iUniverse.com, correct?
yes. Yes.
Thanks for watching today, and we'll see you next time on A Game Changer.
All right, see ya.
You need action. You gotta have action to get your faith on fire. You need action. You gotta take some action to get your heart's desire. All know that. You need action. You gotta have action to get your faith on fire. You need action. You gotta take some action to get your heart's desire. All know that. You need action.